you know, physically, mentally. I went through my, you know, ups and downs as a hooper, but I was allowed to grow. You know, we didn't have all this attention and media and people telling you what you are. So I always had anxiety. I never was comfortable with who I was as far as like I always tested myself against everyone, but I never like, no, let me not. I mean, you always walk on the court feeling you the best, but I always felt like, you know, when I went from junior high school to high school, dag, am I good enough? When I went to high school to college, dag, am I good enough? When I went to college to the pros, am I good enough? So I always had anxiety to try to get better. I had anxiety to understand that, you know, I wasn't there yet. So I had a chance to grow. You know, nowadays, they give the kids so much and tell them what they are. They almost make them like they're pros before they're pros. And
Yes.
sometimes a lot of times it stunts your growth. Because if you don't have that anxiety and you don't think there's a lot more to go and you think you made it, well, you know, your ceiling gets short, you know? And I believe I had a higher ceiling because I still was growing. I still was getting better.
You was always hungry. I remember
Sure.
meeting you the first day at Empire, and you introduced yourself. Like most guys at your status, they just usually just say what's up because you already know who they are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was my impression of you, of your character, because I always judge guys when I first meet them on how they greet you.
Yeah.
You know, so it was just like, you know, I'm Glenn. He's like, you know, I'm Rod. I was like, yeah, I know who you already. You know, I'm fanning out. So
Yeah, no, I never assumed that, and you know, I've always tried to maintain, you know, like when I'm with everybody, I'm like everybody. You know what I mean?
right.
I know what I've done, I know what I've accomplished, I know what I'm capable of. But you know, once we're amongst men and people, like that's what it is.
Yeah. So at that time when you was coming up, who was the best player in your neighborhood?
The best player, I mean, the players in my neighborhood, I would say my brother, Byron, you know, Drederick, you guys call him, but Dedrick Irving, you know, myself, Ty Joy, but there's so many more. Like, I hope they're not all watching because they're going to be mad if I ain't named. But I named my
Now listen, your brother and Dedrick and Ty are enough.
Saeed, like, you know, my brother Byron, the Howards. I mean, I can go on and on. I'm gonna miss some people, but like those guys were my inspirations. Like they, you know, I wanted to be like them. When I walked in that gym and I saw them playing, I was trying to figure out a way to play with them.
Yeah, when I was in Maine and we didn't have a lot of New York action going up there, Dedrick entertained me for a whole year. Because I knew he's from New York. I knew he played at Stevenson. I knew he's one of the best guys coming out of New York City. And I just watched him because that's all we had to watch. And he was a killer. Definitely for BU, yeah. I remember watching him.
If it's these times, it might be different. Like back then, if you didn't go to a top school, like a well-known school, they really didn't see you, and they wasn't.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
And they weren't
true.
paying a whole lot of attention. You know, nowadays you can go anywhere and become a pro, but it wasn't like that back then. And you know, Dedrick was smart, so he was always in the books. You know, I tried to get him to go to Connecticut. They wasn't as good at that time. They was kind of at the bottom of the Big East, but I wanted him on a bigger stage. But you know, Dedrick was out of the whole group. He was the one who always was about education, like more, you know, he was more even with education and basketball, where, you know, I was basketball.
That's real. That's real. Salute to Dedrick, man. And listen, kids, you hear what he's saying? Right? It's those guys, those special guys that Dedrick was a special player.